Imagine waking up one morning, and by noon, your entire city has been buried alive. No warning, no escape. Just fire, ash, and silence. Throughout human history, volcanoes have been some of the most powerful and most terrifying forces on our planet. Today, we are counting down 6 volcanic disasters that changed the world forever. Let's start at the very beginning. 74,000 years ago, Mount Toba unleashed a force beyond anything witnessed in human memory. Nearly 3,000 cubic kilometers of magma exploded into the sky, dwarfing even the most infamous eruptions of recorded history. The blast darkened the sun, blanketed continents in ash, and carved a caldera that still scars the face of Sumatra. On any scale, this was planetary violence, volcanic explosivity index 8, the highest ever measured. For decades, scientists debated if this eruption nearly ended our story before it began. Some genetic studies once suggested only 1 to 10,000 humans survived, a razor-thin margin for our species, a near-extinction event. But as population geneticists now explain, the evidence is far from settled. Ancient DNA reveals a bottleneck in our ancestry, but its timing and depth remain uncertain. Sites like Jwalapuram in India show human life continuing above and below the ash, while lake sediments in East Africa record no volcanic winter at all. What is certain? Toba set the bar for volcanic power. Its legacy is written not just in rocks and ice cores, but in the questions it leaves behind. Scientific estimates vary, and the true scale of Toba's impact on humanity, on climate, on the course of life itself, remains one of the great mysteries of our past. Frescoes in Akrotiri's buried houses still shimmer with blues and ochres, undimmed by 3.5 millennia underground. Around 1,600 BCE, the volcano at Santorini tore itself open, collapsing the island's center into the sea. The eruption's force sent waves of ash and pumice surging across the Aegean, entombing Akrotiri beneath nearly 60 feet of volcanic debris. In Crete, tsunami deposits mark where giant waves crashed ashore, carrying marine sand and ancient pottery far inland. The devastation reached the heart of the Minoan world, disrupting trade, flooding ports, and scattering coastal settlements. Yet, the story isn't one of total annihilation. Inland towns endured, and some Minoan culture survived for generations. For archaeologists at Akrotiri, every painted wall and preserved tool is a clue to daily life at the edge of disaster. As for Atlantis, the link remains a legend, enticing but unproven. The evidence speaks of real people, real loss, and a civilization forced to adapt in the shadow of a shattered caldera. A Roman writer, Pliny the Younger, once described the eruption's cloud as like a pine tree, because it rose to a great height on a sort of trunk and then split into branches. That day, in 79 AD, Vesuvius unleashed a surge of superheated gas and ash, racing down the slopes at nearly 70 kilometers per hour. Temperatures soared past 300 degrees Celsius. That was enough to kill in a heartbeat. In Pompeii, people were caught mid-action, their final moments frozen by the heat. Forensic archaeologists now know the victims died not by suffocation, but from instant thermal shock. Their muscles seized, bodies locked in the very gestures they made as the surge hit. Centuries later, Giuseppe Fiorelli's plaster cast method revealed these lifelike forms, filling the voids left in the ash. Each cast preserves a story: a child curled beside a parent, a worker shielding his face. Vesuvius did more than destroy a city. It preserved a day in Roman life, down to the smallest detail, as if time itself had turned to stone. In April 1815, Mount Tambora shattered the sky and changed the fate of millions. The eruption hurled so much sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere that a veil of sulfate aerosols circled the globe. Sunlight dimmed. Temperatures dropped by as much as half a degree Celsius worldwide, enough to rewrite the weather. The summer of 1816 vanished. Snow fell in June across New England. Frost bit crops in China and Europe. A farmer in Vermont wrote that on the 8th of June, ice covered the ground, and by noon, our hopes for harvest were gone. Famine swept continents. Grain prices soared. In Switzerland, a group of writers trapped by endless rain at Lake Geneva passed the time with ghost stories. Among them, Mary Shelley began a novel about a scientist haunted by his own creation, Frankenstein, born from a world without summer. A climate scientist today traces the chain: Tambora's sulfur dioxide, the stratospheric haze, the drop in temperature, the harvests lost, the hunger that followed. One eruption, a cascade of suffering, and the cold shadow it cast on an entire planet. A hazard map warning of deadly lahars sat on officials' desks in Armero, just days before the eruption. Scientists had traced the risk zones, sent alerts, and pleaded for evacuation. Yet, on the night of November 13, 1985, no sirens sounded. When Nevado del Ruiz erupted, its heat melted the ice cap, unleashing a wall of mud and debris that raced downriver at terrifying speed. Nearly 25,000 people died as the lahar buried the town in darkness. Among the victims, the face of Omaira Sanchez, trapped and calm in the rising mud, became a symbol of warnings ignored and lives lost, not only to nature, but to human failure. Seismic monitors blinked from green to red as Mount Pinatubo rumbled to life in 1991. VVOLCS scientists, led by Dr. Raimundo Punongbayan, watched the data climb, a steady drumbeat of earthquakes, swelling ground, and rising sulfur. Each alert level, from 1 to 5, was a warning rung on a ladder no one wanted to climb. The message was clear: evacuate. Tens of thousands, including the entire Clark Air Base, moved out just days before the main eruption. Then Typhoon Yunya struck, mixing rain with ash until roofs buckled and rivers thickened with mud. Even so, the toll, 847 direct deaths, was a fraction of what might have been. 20 million tons of sulfur dioxide circled the globe, cooling the planet by half a degree. This time, science and swift action turned catastrophe into survival. Volcanic catastrophe can be ranked, but each measure tells a different story. Toba stands alone for existential risk, the only eruption to threaten human survival itself. Santorini leads on civilizational collapse, its blast ending the Minoan era and scattering a dominant culture. Tambora claims the highest toll in mortality and famine, turning summer into winter and hunger into a global crisis. Each axis of comparison, whether extinction, collapse, or mass death, crowns a different disaster. No eruption dominates every measure. The meaning of deadliest shifts with the lens, whether survival of the species, the fate of civilizations, or the sheer scale of human loss. The weight of each depends on what kind of loss shapes our fears when the Earth erupts. Volcanoes still sleep beneath our feet, unpredictable and unstoppable. Science buys us time, but nature never bargains. Could humanity survive the next eruption? Drop your thoughts below. Subscribe for more untold history.